This is Beyond the Uniform with TJ Brassil.
Well, welcome to the first episode of Beyond the Uniform. I'm TJ Brassil, and welcome into our very first guest, Olympian and two-time U.S. champion, Devon Allen. Dev, thanks for joining the show, dude.
Thanks, man. Thanks, TJ. Appreciate you having me on. I feel honored to be the first guest.
So you're a few months out of yet another World Championships. You finished 7th. How did you think your first or your season went?
It went better because it went well considering just kind of like the circumstances, I guess you would say. I just was battling injuries. I hurt my Achilles in April, and I pretty much couldn't get healthy from that the whole season. So I was just kind of like going back and forth with like feeling okay and then trying to run some races. Ran a couple races, then pull out of my next couple races because my Achilles was bothering me. So, but yeah, I mean, considering that. I was pretty much hurt the whole season and not training a ton. I still made a U.S. team, which is the hardest team to make, and I still made the final. So, that bodes well for me in the upcoming Olympic year. As long as I can stay healthy, I got a chance to win some medals.
That's good to hear. How's the Achilles feeling now?
It's good. Yeah, it's good. I had some rest, like the month of October. And I've just been getting it worked on. Been doing a lot of like rehab, prehab, treatment kind of stuff. So, I just been focused on that really, and I'm feeling better. And I'm training now, which is good. So, yeah.
I mean, I'd say a World Championships on a hurt Achilles not too shabby of a year.
Yeah, that's what my coach said. My coach Tim O'Neill was like, hey, because he was ready to shut my season down right before USA's. He was like, man, if you can't run, you shouldn't, try to run USA's and this and that. And I was like, I think I can muster it. And luckily I made the team. So I extended my season like another 10 weeks. So it then gave me some time to try to get a little bit healthier and stuff like that. So, yeah.
What's that like not battling with a coach, but like in college and in high school, like when your coach says something, you kind of are just like, all right, cool. But now at the pro level, you're sitting there and the coach is like, I don't know about this, but your body so well at this point. Like, what is that dynamic like?
I think you just got to kind of trust the relationship. And like you said, as the athlete, I kind of know my body. So, I'm a professional. I should take it professionally, and I should be, hey, if I can't run realistically, I shouldn't be doing it. But I knew I could muster up something with the amount of time we had, like 10 weeks. I felt like I can get healthy enough to actually compete. But yeah, I mean, there's that dynamic to where, sometimes coaches have their opinion, you have your own opinion. You kind of have to like meet in the middle and then come to a compromise. So usually, me and my coach do that, which is good. So we don't butt heads too much. Yeah.
Now, when I welcomed you into the show, I introduced you as Olympian Devon Allen, and ever since you made the Olympics, that's kind of how you've been introduced at races. You're Olympian Devon Allen, two-time U.S. champ Devon Allen. When you first heard that you were introduced as Olympian Devon Allen, how did that feel? Like, what did that feel like?
I mean, it's pretty surreal, I guess. Like, now that I'm in it, it feels normal, right? Because I've been, I ran the 2016 Olympics, placed 5th, and now I'm training for the 2020 Olympics, and that's kind of like my daily job, and everything I do throughout the day is that. But when before that, it was really surreal. Like I remember my dad had me and my sister put together like a chart of like goals for the year, like for the month and like the year and like a 5-year goal, and I just remember writing down like a 5-year or 6-year goal and just writing Olympic Games, and that's all I wrote down on that chart. And I was like, that was like 2011 or 2012, right? So, as a young athlete, I always kind of aspired to do that, and so now that I finally made it, it's time to win a medal. Just kind of climb up the ladder.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned obviously winning a medal, and this year, with it being an Olympic year, how does your training different in an Olympic year compared to the year after the Olympics when it's kind of a down year or something like that?
Yeah. It's tough to say. I feel like, everybody says you always train harder in an Olympic year, but I feel like that's kind of like not a super smart way to go about it, because if you train, not that you can't train hard and train harder, but usually when you train harder, the risk of injury goes up. I kind of used 2017, 18, and 19 to kind of figure out my threshold for training, and figuring out what I can do, how much I can do, what works, what doesn't work. And then we're going to put that all together into 2020, like 2019, 2020 prep for the Olympics, and kind of figure that out. Obviously, I'm going to be training hard. Obviously, I'm going to be doing a lot of work. But, yeah, I think that's the best way to think about it, is not to train harder but smarter, and do things that really work for you, and just be smart with your scheduling, your planning, making sure I'm eating well, sleeping well, all this, like everything that comes being an athlete, but just being extra careful, extra smart about it, especially in a big year like this where it's super hard to make the Olympic team for one, but then once you make it, you want to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what kind of pressure does it add with it being an Olympic year? Like it's once every 4 years. It's like Worlds, you get twice, and you get 2 Worlds before an Olympics, so it's not as much pressure, I would think. But what kind of pressure does it add for it being an Olympic year?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there definitely is some added pressure. I don't really think about it too much, just because every prep and every season and every, all the workouts are pretty similar to everything I've been doing, right? The only thing is now, instead of USA Championships at the end of the year, I'm going to the Olympic trials, which is USA Championships, right? So, and then after that, you go to the Olympic Games as opposed to the World Champs. But I think I treat everything pretty much as seriously regardless, even in the Diamond League meets or some smaller meets, I go out there, trying to win, whether it be, it might be early in the season, later in the season, I'm working on something, whatever. But when I get out there on the track, I'm trying to win. So, the pressure is always there, you would say, is just kind of like always feeling the pressure to do well and compete well and win. So I wouldn't say it's like a heightened level of pressure. It's just, obviously, everybody's watching the Olympics, which is cool. And I think that's really, amazing about the sport is, a lot of fans get behind it. But, you want to be there and you want to do well. And, you want to do everything you can to do that.
Absolutely. And when we were talking about the Olympics earlier, you were saying how you reached that goal of being an Olympian. Now the goal is to medal.
Yeah.
So now that it's the goal, now that it's not sitting there like, all right, I need to make the Olympics. It's all right, get a medal at the Olympics. What do you think you have to work on the most to make sure that you can be one of those top 3 to get a medal?
I think, especially in my event, the hurdles is consistency, right? And that's, just with the technical things of a race, right, to start, the hurdling, the sprinting, being fast and all that, but also being consistent through the rounds, like multiple races, right? So, hopefully during the season when I open up indoors, do indoor season, go outdoors, I'm consistently running fast, whether that's 13.0 or 12.80 or whatever, I want to be doing that over and over and over. So by the time I get to the big meets, that benchmark's kind of set and I can just go do it. So yeah, that's pretty much how I would treat the season, just trying to be super, super consistent. And then that'll put me in a good position to win some medals, right? Like, if I run 13.0 10 times this year, the odds of me winning a medal at the Olympics are very, very high, because now all I have to do is run 13.0 or faster. Obviously the competition is going to be high, yes, but realistically in my event, if I'm consistently doing that well and running that fast, then chances are I can just show up and do it any other day, right? So yeah, I mean, I feel like, like I got 5th place in the first one I competed in, and I think, I was kind of disappointed in that finish because I knew I was able to do better and run faster. And I still think I'm still, kind of in that gray area of kind of like, I should be winning world champs and then doing better and stuff like that. But I can't get too down on myself, because then that's when, the downward spiral happens. So I got to keep, just progressing as I see, every year. Even if I'm not running faster or doing something, running better, I need to be doing something better, right? Like whether that be technically or strength wise or whatever. And then hopefully, the Olympic year, that time comes, you put it all together.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And you mentioned in the first one you got 5th, and you were kind of disappointed in that. And you kind of hear people who aren't necessarily athletes competing in the Olympics, but people watching it, you hear like, if someone doesn't win gold and they win silver, they're almost more disappointed than the bronze person because they were so close to gold, but bronze like still got that medal. Is there any truth to that, or what's the difference between being disappointed in fifth or someone being happy with fifth or being third or so on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a mentality, right? Like, if you're a gold medal caliber athlete, you're going to be disappointed with second or third, right? But, if you're kind of a tweener and you're like, oh, if I have a good race, I can win a medal or, maybe even win a gold, but, you end up getting silver or bronze and you're going to be like, yeah, okay, great. Like, competed well, did that. So, and that's the thing. Like 2016, I felt really confident. Like all the scenarios in my head I played, I was like, oh, I'm going home with a gold medal. And so, like getting fifth, I was kind of disappointed. But then I look back on it and be like, hey, I was fifth in the world in the Olympics. One of the youngest athletes in the race. If not the youngest athlete in the race. So, you can't be you can be disappointed at the time, but I gave myself like a day, right? Like after that day happened, I just kind of forgot about, the race and went to enjoy the rest of the Olympic Games. And I went home, I had the football season coming up. So went home and got ready for that. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just the mentality. I think to answer your question, if you're, a gold medal guy and you're just, that, if you just run well, you're going to win a gold medal, then you're going to be disappointed with anything else. But, sometimes, you're just not quite there, right? Like, if you've never run, 9.7, 9.8, the odds of you winning a 100-meter gold medal, right, are pretty, what I'm saying, realistically. And that's the thing, right? So, to know that I've run 13:03 and, 2016 gold medal was 13:05. 2017 world champs gold medal was maybe 13. I think it might have been 13:03 or 13:05. And then last year's world champs gold medal was 13:10. Right. So like in my head, right, I'm there. I just need to get that little bit extra. So that's what. Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. So when you were saying afterwards, you went and just enjoyed the Olympic Games. There's so much pageantry around the Olympic Games. Like, what was your favorite part aside from competing? What was your favorite part about the entire experience?
I think it's just a cool experience being around a bunch of great athletes, and getting to experience different sports. Right, like I went to cycling, in the velodrome where they go around in circles super fast. I went to basketball. I watched USA play China. I went to swimming. Saw Michael Phelps win a gold medal, and I went to beach volleyball and all the different sports that I think are cool, handball and all that stuff. So like some things that we never really get to experience firsthand because we're either training or we just don't get to do it. Was a lot of fun, and then I think just being around in the village, that the big thing is it's sponsored by, Olympics are sponsored by McDonald's. So after everyone's done competing, right, we all just grab 10 Big Macs and 20 chicken nuggets and a milkshake because we're like, okay, we're down for the season, shut it down. So, yeah.
What's the point of health food at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly. You gotta splurge a little bit. You just spent, the last 3 years getting ready, so now you need a little bit of a mental break.
You mentioned going to see Michael Phelps winning a gold. That had to have been a cool experience. Like, what's that electricity like? Does that almost since swimming is before track, did it almost hype you up for you to get going?
I think so. Like, it's just kind of cool. We went, and when you're in the village, you can sign up for tickets. And there's only so many, but obviously USA, I guess the Olympic Committee or something, they know a lot of USA athletes who would want to watch that event. So we had 40 tickets. So I signed up early, one of the first days of being in the village for that day. And so I got one of the tickets. And so we were 40 deep, sitting in a section together, all cheering. And maybe they're not all American, but the amount of fans cheering for Michael Phelps was felt like we were all American, right? So we were everybody was going crazy, and that was his millionth medal. I don't know. I don't even remember. I think it was a butterfly or something. I can't remember the event, but I remember just sitting. We were super super high, but it was kind of cool because we were so high we could look down and into the pool. It was a view from the camera, pretty much. So awesome. Yeah, cool.
So with Olympics coming up in 2020, you kind of see all the commercials and all the hype starting to kind of gather again for the Olympics. But then once it's done, everyone tends to kind of forget about all the Olympic sports for the next like 3.5 years. Now, track's been slowly getting a little more recognition, but why do you think it drops off so much after the Olympics? Because it's not like the competition decreases at all. Everyone's still setting records, still running as fast.
I think really it's just, the revenue made by the companies, right? So whatever, like you said, like, so say it's Visa and Toyota, the Olympic sponsors, Nike, and all that stuff. They're going to promote their athletes. They're going to do that super hard, like right now, and even the year after the Olympics, right? Because they're just coming off the, gold medal, right? So, I win a gold medal. Of course, Nike's going to take advantage of me winning a gold medal, and they're going to promote that. So I think that happens. But then, like you said, so like maybe a year after it's still relevant, but then maybe like 2 or 3 years after the Olympics, it kind of becomes, not as talked about. I think it's just normal for anything, right? Like, Odell Beckham's one-handed catch was like the biggest thing in the world for like pretty much a year, right? But like people forget about it. People still remember it, but you don't talk about it anymore. You don't walk up to your buddies that play football and be like, oh, remember that catch, 6 years ago? Like, no. So, I think the Olympics is a huge event, and I think it's a huge spectator sport, the whole games itself, and it brings a lot of athletes and non-athletes and fans together to just kind of enjoy competition and pretty much being human. That's kind of, what human is, right? Like, you're competing against everybody, and, whether that's good or bad, you can debate, but, especially in sports, that's like the most pure competition, there is. So, like, a lot of people get behind it, but like I said, I think just the time kind of, a couple of years after the Olympics, people are like, he won the gold medal. That's awesome. Like, you're still a gold medalist, and yeah, that's, nobody can take that from you, and that's sick. If somebody came up to me with a gold medal, I'd be like, that's freaking dope. But, I'm not going to remember it right away. So,
That makes sense. But and I noticed the Diamond League, to try to kind of increase people wanting to watch it and stuff like that, they went and switched up what events are going to be in the Diamond League this year, and there was some controversy with that. 110 hurdles didn't get affected, so that's positive for you. But there was a lot of controversy, especially all over Twitter with a lot of different athletes. What was your take on that?
I think it's a little bit, sad and disappointing, just because, I know how I would feel, right, if they took the 110 hurdles away. So, I am kind of like, oh, that kind of sucks. But, it's hard because I feel like the IAAF or the World Athletics, whatever they're calling, whatever their official name is now, is trying to figure out a way to monetize, because they're selling tickets at the meets, great, and they're trying to monetize the TV revenue and stuff like that. But I think, I think they're just kind of saying, okay, well, we just need to make the game shorter, and people, or not make the meet shorter, and people will watch. And that's not necessarily the case. I think, it needs to be entertaining and event filled, right? So, events need to be, the 110 hurdles go off, and they're through the race, but then they're talking about long jump and pole vault and shot put at the same time. And they're doing pretty good with that. Like, people watch 4-hour football games, right? Like, so I don't think the time is the actual issue there. I think, like a lot of people are arguing, is just finding a package that interests people. So maybe that's, and it's track and field. So, I'm not a huge soccer fan. I don't really watch soccer, and that just is what it is, right? So if you're not a huge track and field fan, you might not watch it. So it's really just finding the demographic of track and field fans, and getting out that content towards those people, and, making them, forever fans, really, right? Making sure that those, maybe if there's 8 billion people in the world, maybe 1 billion people are track and field fans, right? Getting all 1 billion people to commit to always watching, because that would be a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But, and that's, like 10% or 12% of whatever. So, yeah, it's interesting. I'm disappointed, right? Because my second favorite event is the 200. So if I were to ever do anything else in track and field, it would be 100. That kind of takes that. And obviously I have a lot of friends that do those events as well, so they're not going to be there. But actually I can't really talk too much just because I don't really know the solution there. So yeah.
And then, so that was one of the big controversial stories in the track world in the last few months. Another one, which I'm sure you heard about, it was all over Twitter, was when Max Kellerman on First Take decided to go on there and say how he thought track athletes weren't athletes. I'm not sure, did you hear about that at all? And if so, what was your thought on that?
I did see that, and obviously that was like a big. Everybody was tagging me in it because I was a guy that played two sports, at a high level, with football and track. And so they're like, track and field athletes are just failed, whatever, basketball players or football players or whatever. And, and people know that it's just kind of like nonsensical to say that. Just because I'm around track and field athletes all the time and I know they're all great athletes. I've seen some of the best athletes do track and field. Right, and it's everybody's niche and preference, right? Maybe you just enjoy track and field. Maybe that's what you were around. Maybe that's what you grew up in, right? Like if I always joke and say if I was born in like the UK, I'd be a pro soccer player, right? Or if I was born in Australia, I'd play rugby or Aussie rules football. It's this dynamic of your culture and where you're born and what's popular, right? So like the thing in the US is basketball, football, is super popular, and that's kind of the go-to for the greatest athletes just because that's where the most money is. But it doesn't mean, some failed athletes have, a failed basketball player goes to track. That's not really, that's not the case at all.
Yeah, that those comments interested me as well because it's kind of like, you mentioned it earlier, the Olympics is the purest form of competing. Like when you look at track and field, it's, are you fast enough? Can you throw far enough? Can you jump high enough? Like that's just pure athleticism right there. And then you also just mentioned how you were a two-sport athlete in college. You did you did football as well as track and field at Oregon. Do you ever get that itch to go back to football, or have you ever thought of maybe you'll try to catch on with the team at some point?
Yeah, I mean, I always feel like I can still play. So maybe after this Olympic Games, see how things are going, and I'll kind of re-up. And I'll only be 25, so pretty young in an athlete's career. So I don't see why I couldn't. I think I can compete. I got like some of my buddies that play in the NFL now are like, bro, Devon, you got to play. Just because I know my ability and I know how talented I was when I did do it, and I think I can still do it.
Growing up, which was more of a goal originally? Something like getting into the NFL, like being on an NFL team, or something like make the Olympics and winning a gold medal?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, especially when I was younger, I played football since I was 5, and I didn't start running track until I was like 12. So obviously, my whole existence from 5 to 12 was like, hey, I'm going to be in the NFL. And then as I started running track, I wasn't even really I wasn't a bad track athlete, but I wasn't like the caliber I was until like my junior, senior year in high school. So even then, even it was up until then that I didn't really consider the Olympics as a possibility until like my junior, senior year in high school. And then obviously when I got to college, I kind of, turned it up a notch, and I was like, okay, yeah, I could definitely do this. So, I would say just, my whole young Devon life was football. And then I was still mindset kind of like I wanted to play in the NFL, when I was in high school and college, because that's what I was doing, and I love football. But I realized that the opportunity for me to go to the Olympics was much it just felt like it was way closer, right? Especially with just the years coming, right? So 2016, I was like, yeah, this is the time to do it. I got, my Olympic trials are in 2 months. You got to lock it in. So,
which sport got you or started recruiting you first at Oregon? Was it track and then football joined on, or was it football and then track joined on, or were they completely separate?
To be honest, at Oregon, it was track first with Jamie Cook, my college coach. He was recruiting me. and Robert Johnson, the head coach at Oregon, and then they were kind of just, picking my brain, seeing, how I felt about Oregon. So I decided to come on a visit, like in December, January of like my junior or senior year, and then I met with the football coach because I knew I wanted to play football. I had already had, plenty of offers to play football, like all the Pac-12 pretty much, and the Big Ten, and some SEC and ACC schools. So I was, decently recruited, for sure, like as a football player too, but they were just kind of on the fence. And then, it just happened to Coach Helfers really liked me when he got the head coach job, and he offered me, I think that was his first offer as a head coach.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because I vaguely remember on your official visit, I'm pretty sure you were the first athlete I'd ever seen we were all at a basketball game because it's a big recruiting weekend, and I think you were the first athlete I'd seen that had a track host. Like you have a host for your visit.
Yeah.
So you had a track athlete host, but you also had a football player host. Like you had two people like hosting you at one time, which was kind of funny to see.
It was cool because I got a feel for both teams. Like one night I hung out with the track, guys. I think you might have been there, actually. And then the next night I hung out with the football team. So it was cool just to get a feel because obviously, if you're going to be there the next year, you want to be like, hey, these are going to be my teammates. How's the dynamic? So no, that was cool.
What was it that led to that decision to choose Oregon?
I'd always just, I'd seen Oregon, football, and I've seen, just how dominant they were on the track as well. And, just the legacy and the legends behind University of Oregon and their track, Hayward Field, and just track in general. And so I thought it was a good opportunity for me to go play at a high level in both sports. Because Marcus Mariota he had just played his first year in 2012-13 season again, and he had just played his first year as a starting quarterback, and I was like, this guy's a good athlete. I met him obviously on my visit, but and then I felt that I could help the team in track and field too, where we had a lot of talented athletes, and that next year when I was a freshman, we won the NCAA's, and track. So no, it's pretty cool.
So coming off of this last season, switching back to track now, coming off this last season, and you had said you just started training again. What do you do in your downtime? Like when ESPN and all these people kind of publicize what like basketball players do in their off season or football, but like you don't really see what a track athlete does in his downtime. Yeah.
I'm pretty basic, right? Like, I mean, I don't work, so I do track and field full time. So obviously I have hours in the day to kill. I like to play video games. That's pretty much a normal thing for, maybe a guy my age. I have a dog, so I take care of him, and mess with him a little bit. Spend a good amount of time, a few hours a day recovering. So whether that's, just like, working out or, Normatec or massage therapy, or, I'm going to the chiropractor here in like an hour, getting treatment. So yeah, I mean, my days are not full, but, I feel busy during the day, right? I'm doing things like today, we had training at 10. So, I just got up, like 8 o'clock, kind of, made some coffee, had breakfast, headed over to training. We trained from 10 to like 12:30, 1 o'clock. Got home, and then, I'm talking to you now, and then, in about 30 minutes from now, I'm going to head over to the chiropractor and get some treatment, and then I'll head home. I got to go grocery shopping. I'm running a little bit late. But yeah, no, pretty normal. Me and Mitch Modine, my roommate in college, actually, and you know Mitch, he's the athlete at Oregon. We're coaching at my high school in Phoenix at Brophy Prep. So 3 days a week right now, because it's preseason, we're coaching the track athletes. So that keeps us busy too, right? So we train from like, 11 to 1, and then we lift from like 1:30 to 3, and then from 3 to 4 the day after. So, pretty much during the day I'm a little busy, which is nice because, I've just been sitting at home playing video games all day. And yeah, I just got a new project. I just got like a '66 Mustang body. Like, so I gotta rebuild it, but I'm excited about that. Just kind of, like something that I've never done and never, I don't know I do know how cars work and the components of them, but I've never worked on them and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see if I can figure it out and see how it come out. I'm giving myself until the Olympic Games to get it done. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah. That's pretty cool. So I didn't know, are you a big car guy, or is this just something you decided just to kind of pick up?
I mean, I like cars, right? Like I like fast cars. I like, I like motorcycles, even though I don't have one. I like Jeeps and stuff like that. Like, I think it's like a normal thing for any guy, really, like just to enjoy cars and think they're cool. And so I was like, I want to do something. I always wanted like a classic car. And like a Mustang is like the most classy you can get, right? Like, one of the first, like, they call it a pony car, but one of the first muscle cars in development and created. So it's pretty cool, and they're really popular. So it's easy to find parts so far, which is nice, and they're pretty simple compared to like the cars nowadays, right? Like all the components, it's just like a engine, a transmission, a alternator, the fuel system, and the battery. And that's about it, right? Like, you can have the windshield wiper fluid, but that's kind of secondary. But yeah, I mean, the components are super easy. So yeah, like you can say I'm into cars, but I've never really worked on them until now. So now that I have some time and a little bit of cash, I'm starting to do that.
That's pretty cool. And it must be pretty cool for the kids that you're coaching to have an Olympian coaching them. Is it weird for you? Because, I mean, you're at such a high level with technique and ability and speed and everything, to watch some of these kids and have to like take a step back and realize like you were at that level at one point. Like, what's that like?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, right? Like less than 10 years ago, I was in high school doing that. So, and I know like how big a role the coaches I had when I was youth track in high school and middle school and in college played in my development as an athlete. So I kind of want to do the same thing for them, right? Like, I want to be able to like when I'm out there, I want it to be like, full go. Like, I'm taking it super seriously, and I want them to get better. I want them to enjoy being out there on the track just like I did. So yeah, no, it's really, really fun. The kids are awesome where I go to high school, so I can't complain there, and I think they're having a good time. Maybe not so much when we do the hard workouts, but they're having a good time. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then you'd mentioned still pretty big into video games. I remember back at school, you were big into video games too. I could hold it down against you in FIFA at one time, probably not anymore. But what's your biggest game that you play right now?
I'm still playing Fortnite.
Okay.
I'm playing like Apex Legends, Call of Duty, any of the shooters. I'm really into. I just started playing Forza. Right, just like when I was on my car thing, I was like, oh, let me try to design the car on the game first, how I want it to be in real life. So I've been playing Forza. But yeah, I mean, any game that I could play with like some of my friends is something that I would do. We play like board games sometimes. I had the Nintendo Switch. We just downloaded Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo Olympics. That game. So we're in the living room like this, like sprinting. So
that's a good way to prep for the Olympics, right?
Exactly. Perfect prep. Visualization is really key, to being successful. So like if you just practice over and over, I'm running like 950 in this game, so I'm going to be super fast this year.
Yeah, I'm going to expect you to be flying. That's for sure. So in your off season, I mean, you travel so much in your season, different places to go compete. Do you still go and travel in your off season, or is that just kind of sit at home and hang out and figure out stuff to do?
I do travel in the off season. My girlfriend, she actually lives in Australia, so sometimes I get the opportunity to go out there. But this year we went to Hawaii for like 10 days, so we took a little vacation, which was fun. And I've never been to Hawaii, so like, it was an opportunity for me to go there and have a lot of fun and hang out. So yeah, most of the time I try to go somewhere in the off season. I like 2 years ago was Tokyo. Last year I went to Australia, and so yeah, I try to do something. I do enjoy Phoenix. I love Phoenix, but when I get the chance to go somewhere I haven't been before, I definitely jump on it.
Now, when you get there, is that your time to relax, or are you still like kind of training here and there while you're on vacation?
Yeah, that's what I told her. I was like, I'm not doing anything. I'm laying on the beach and eating. I don't even want to walk far. It's like if we have to walk more than a mile, we just get an Uber.
Perfect. You got to rest the legs at some point.
Exactly.
So you mentioned your girlfriend Morgan, who's an 800-meter runner for Australia.
Yeah.
When you're at something like Worlds or the Olympics or something, and you have teammates that are racing against her, what is that cheering situation like?
I mean, well, first of all, she takes precedence, right? Because I don't want to die, but no, she takes precedence because I want to see her do well. But I also want to see the U.S. athletes do really well, and usually Morgan is cheering for them as well, right? Like she's good friends with Raven Rogers, which I actually went to college with as well. So it's cool. And them competing against each other. Obviously, Morgan's first year last year doing the 800, and Raven's a veteran at the event, so it's kind of cool seeing them compete and having a friendship and stuff like that. But definitely cheering for Morgan first and foremost, regardless.
Smart move. Does anyone on the team like give you a hard time for cheering for her over the U.S. athletes at all?
No, they don't give me a hard time. Obviously, like they know, right? So everybody on the team knows. So it's just like it's just kind of normal. It's just like think of an example. Steph Curry's parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have two sons that were in the NBA. Right, they're cheering for both of them, regardless. But with Steph's playing in the game, obviously they're going to be, yeah, okay, great. If he's not, then whatever. So, but yeah, so no, I'm definitely for Morgan.
And she just came out with being a part in a movie that came out recently. Is that correct?
Yep, she's in the movie Game Changers. It's like a documentary about vegan athletes, and just like just some cool stuff, just about a different lifestyle, eating vegan, plant-based products, protein and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. We might have to get her on a new episode of Beyond the Uniform to talk about that a little bit.
I'm gonna definitely, yeah, you should, because I'm interested to see what she has to say. Just because when she does interviews, she's really entertaining, and so I'm like, you never told me that before. That's good.
So one thing that I noticed in college was off of the field, you're a really big piano player. Do you have other skills that you don't necessarily show, but you like to do, or is piano like your main go-to?
I mean, I'm barely a piano player, but I do enjoy it. I can play a few songs, and I have a piano, but yeah, I enjoy music a lot, so that's number one. And then, I think I'm a decent artist. Pick up the paintbrush every once in a while and do something, usually for Morgan. I'll paint her or something. And then I also just recently invested in a camera, so I've been taking pictures and photos of cool places like that. I actually posted a picture of San Francisco on my Instagram, and I took that one, so I was pretty proud of that. But yeah, I think I do enjoy lots of things. I don't necessarily have like one hobby. But I think I'm decent at a lot of things. So I like to do a lot of things, right? I don't like to just stick to one thing, right? I just got the car, so I'm gonna try to figure that out, and that'll be kind of like a hobby for me, in my downtime. But yeah. So
Devon Allen, the man of many talents, that's for sure.
Right.
And I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but with the trials coming up, they're gonna get at the brand new Hayward Field. What do you expect for that to be like?
To be honest, like I think it's going to be probably the greatest venue in the world. So and I know for a fact that it'll be full. Because that's just how that community in the U.S. is, track and field fans. Especially with the new stadium at Hayward, they're all going to be there for the Olympic trials, and so I think the capacity is like 40 or 50,000. So having that many people in a stadium watching you is going to feel like a world championship, Olympic Games. So it's going to be a spectacle for sure, and it's going to be really enjoyable for the athletes as well as the fans, because the energy the fans bring, heightens the experience for everybody, right? So as a fan, like if there's a lot of people there, it's going to be fun, right? Like you go to the final four of a college basketball game, it's going to be crazy because everybody's going crazy. So the same thing with track and field. I'm super excited to see the stadium. I know it's almost done. I'm going to try to sneak into a meet, or at least go watch a meet before I actually have to go run there, just to get a feel for it. But yeah, I'm pumped. I think this revamping Hayward is something that's going to bring a lot of attention to the United States in track and field, and hopefully give it that kind of push that we need as American athletes to have some more meets in the U.S. and have more chances to be kind of like showcased.
And I mean, now you competed in, I guess, what would now be considered the old Hayward Field.
Yeah.
So now there's the new one. Will there still be that sense of kind of nostalgia coming back, or will it not? Or is it different because it's a whole new venue?
No, I think it'll be similar. I mean, obviously it's a different venue and it'll look different, but I think the feeling that you get just was kind of created by the atmosphere and the fans, right? So it's not really necessarily just the track and everything that makes Hayward special. It's just the whole like aura around it, and how everybody, like all the track fans know everybody's PB and everybody that's running at every event, and how much they care. So I think it'll be the same. It'll feel the same. It'll be nice and upgraded and new, but I think it'll be really similar to the old Hayward Field.
Awesome. Well, Dev, thank you for being the first guest on Beyond the Uniform. I really appreciate it. And everyone, we'll see you next time for another guest in another episode.
Thanks, TJ. I appreciate you, man.
This was Beyond the Uniform with TJ Brassil. Join us again next week when world silver medalist Raven Rogers joins the show.